Good morning. Joanne and Joe here, and Buddy and Bella having their Sunday morning treats as usual. And we've got, I think, Valentino down here too. I don't know whether you can see Valentino. You see that, Valentino? So good morning. Welcome to our regular Sunday service, you Unity of Delaware folks, or any of our friends anywhere who are tuning in this morning. We're always so grateful to have you join us. It's a way of kind of staying connected as a community during these times when we're not getting to see each other as much as we would like, or as much as we're used to. So the dogs have really taken, as you can see, to this Sunday morning time together. It's one of their favorite times of the week, and one of our favorite times as well. So thank you so much for joining us for this just half an hour or so of prayer and song and a short little spiritual message to reflect on for the week ahead. Our focus is hopefulness today, so thank you so much for tuning in. Well, we're going to let the pets go take their morning naps, and I'll invite Joe to come over, and we'll go into a time of prayer here in a moment. I think Joe will kind of move the camera around a little bit, and then come over here and join me on the couch. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right. Well, lots of prayer requests coming in. Really from all over right now. We're getting a lot at the church. So many people with family members or friends or people they know dealing with the COVID virus right now, as well as with other health conditions, and we just lift all of them up in prayer. This is a time of challenge, too, in terms of the holidays, and having to change some of those holiday traditions. It's so difficult, and difficult for families not to be able to get together in the usual ways. So prayers for vigilance and for patience, and for our feeling our connections, and staying connected and sharing our love for one another in whatever ways we can, even if it's across the miles. I also want to share a special prayer request this morning for our dear friend Betty Short, who might be tuning in this morning with her loved ones around her. Bless you, Betty, if you're out there. She was in the hospital but is home now and surrounded, being cared for by her loving granddaughter, Amy, her kids, Billy, Larry. Prayers going out to you. Wonderful way shower, spiritual teacher, angel whisperer, Betty. So grateful for you and sending blessings your way. Many prayers going up. So let's kind of prepare. We've got kind of a focus on maintaining our hopefulness, hope, this morning. So I thought of this chant Joe and I put together some years back called Light the Lamp. The words are from Yogananda and the music ours. And it's a really easy chant to sing along. I think it's about kind of inviting God to restore that hope in us. And I hope you'll join in wherever you are. Light the lamp of thy love within me. Light the lamp of thy love within me. Change my darkness, change my darkness, change my darkness to light. Light the lamp of thy love within me. Light the lamp of thy love change, my darkness change, my darkness change, my darkness to light. Let's close our eyes for just a moment as we turn our minds to that power and presence of God in us. Let that awareness be deep inside us, in our hearts, deep in our minds, that deep connection we have with God that is unbreakable and unfailing, and that empowers us moment by moment, by day and by night, to do what is ours to do, to live to our fullest potential, to be who we're meant to be, to walk the path of light and love and peace. We affirm this truth for everyone in our community this morning and for living beings everywhere, their unbreakable connection with God in them that makes all things possible, that is always healing them, renewing them in body, mind, and spirit, is always lighting the path before them in the path of wisdom and peace and abundant life. So we affirm this truth for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our communities, for our planet, the living power and presence of God that is with us always. And we are grateful. So it is. Amen. All right. So thinking of songs of hopefulness, thought of this old one. I think it's a Reverend Gary Davis tune, isn't it, Joe? Or,
I'm not sure. I think it's an old traditional.
Okay. All right. It's called There's a Bright Side Somewhere. And when you're in need of hope, a rekindling of your hopefulness, this is a good song to sing. So I hope you'll join us on it.
Ready?
Ready.
There's a bright side somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere. Ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's a bright side somewhere.
There's more joy.
Well, there's more joy somewhere. You know, there's more joy somewhere. Ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's more joy somewhere.
And there's more hope.
Well, there's more hope somewhere. You know, there's more hope somewhere. I ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's more hope somewhere.
There's more peace.
You know, there's more peace somewhere. Well, there's more peace somewhere. Ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's more peace somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere. Ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's a bright side somewhere. Ain't gonna rest now till I find it. There's a bright side somewhere. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joe. All right. All right. Well, a few ideas this morning about the idea of staying hopeful, of keeping hope. Yep, go ahead and cross over. You probably noticed we have our tree and things up today, and Joe wanted to just show that a little bit as he panned in. Hopefulness. I think this has been, we could probably all agree, a bit of a challenging year for maintaining our sense of hopefulness at all times. Hope is very much a part of this season of Advent. We always light one of those Advent wreath candles for hope. because we need hope in order to bring forth, birth that higher self. We talk about it as the Christ self in us. We have to have hope, even in the darkest of times. Hope is a big part of that renewal, that rebirth that we want to experience in this time. But I really think we need to light that candle of hope every day, and some days more than once, because in challenging times, our hopefulness can dwindle and become very diminished, and we need it. We must have hope. I was reading the transcript of an interview with a man I admire. He's done wonderful work for racial justice in the country. His name is Brian Stevenson. He wrote a book called Just Mercy. It was made into a movie some years back, very good movie. And he founded an organization called the Equal Justice Initiative. I know a number of you are familiar with his work. He founded that back in '89, I think. And he's done tremendous work to get people who have been wrongly convicted and put on death row, retrials. He's won cases like that before the Supreme Court, defending people mentally ill and incarcerated, or children tried as adults and incarcerated and needing someone to stand up for their rights. He's done amazing work. And he was talking in this interview about how, for him, hopefulness is a principle and an intention that we have to renew and we have to maintain. And no matter what we're feeling, we have to kind of renew that hopefulness in us. He says it's if we allow ourselves to become hopeless, we become part of the problem. He says you're either hopeful or you're the problem. And that really gave me something to think about. It's hopefulness, and he talks about it as our superpower. Hope is our superpower. It's what gets us up in the morning when we don't feel we have the energy or the drive to do it. It's what enables us to speak up when something needs to be spoken up about. It's what fuels our energies and our efforts and our passions. And we have to maintain that hopefulness. And as human beings, that's not always an easy task. We have wide-ranging feelings and emotions. It comes with the human package. It comes with human nature. I've always found it interesting. Psychologists talk about this. There's a negativity bias in our brain. Sometimes it goes way back. It's kind of, I think it's reptilian brain, but in fear of predation or something, that we're always on the alert and ready to discover threats and danger. They call it a negativity bias. So that's in there, and we have these wide-ranging feelings and reactions to things, and we have both hopelessness. We have those experiences, and we have hope, because that's built into our very DNA as well. Maybe our spiritual DNA is what I'd call that. There's a wonderful scripture from Hebrews 6:19. Paul is telling the earliest of Christians, they were just called followers of the way, that those of us who believe in God, he says, we can seize the hope set before us, a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul. Like that metaphor, that the hope in us is like an anchor. An anchor in our souls keeps us steady and strong and on our paths. I also very much like Emily Dickinson's old metaphor, and I took that as my title, The Thing with Feathers. This is from a poem of hers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Never stops. Hope is in us always. It's part of our spiritual DNA. And I think Stevenson's right that it is one of our superpowers. We have to maintain it by intention, by principle, even when it's wavering. We don't need to judge ourselves about when it's wavering, but we want to address it if we are finding ourselves sinking into and getting stuck in hopelessness. So I thought of ways to renew our hopefulness, and I bet these three I've come up with are ones I've tried or read about or been taught about or experienced myself many times, and I bet they're ones that have worked for you too. The first one, even before number one, is learn to track when hopelessness has gotten a hold of you. and it kind of arrives with that heavy feeling, in the soul, in the heart. It's like drags us down. It's like you don't feel like doing anything or like you can do anything, that hopeless feeling. We need to shake that off. So becoming aware of that when it happens and not letting ourselves dwell there long. And maybe having a plan for dealing with it then. This is what I'm going to do when I'm feeling hopeless. So these are the three I've come up with. First one, almost unfailing for me, and I bet for many of you, connect with nature. Nature will rekindle your hope in whatever way works for you. I remember going through a long, dark depression. It was back in my 30s, I think, and I just kind of grabbed onto my morning walk routine. I had a circuit I did to the Park of Roses and back from my home every morning without fail, as a habit, and I walked my way out of depression. It's especially if you're, walking in some place where there's beauty, green space, beautiful, and you're being observant. You're not listening to your phone, your music or something, but you're really being observant and going slow enough to look around and soak it up. You can walk your way back to hopefulness. The wonderful poet Mary Oliver, she was a walker. And she had many poems about how nature healed her, like this one. She said, "When I'm among the trees, they give off such hints of gladness, I would almost say that they save me, and daily." I like that a lot. She said for her, the door to the woods is the door to the temple. That's a place where you go to be inspired, just like a temple, lifted up, your hope rekindled. Nature will do it. And if you haven't experienced that lately, being saved by nature, go out for a walk, get into one of the parks, spend some time with the trees or near water. Second one, remember your human reasons for hope in the people you've known, in the people in your life, in the people's work you're aware of, in the spiritual teachers you've had. There are many, many examples in all of our lives of people who rekindle our hope, often because of their hope, because of their hopefulness. I was thinking about my grandfather and his remarkable resilience and hopefulness, rearing his family in the time of the Depression, 4 kids, family of 6 in a tiny little rural village in upstate New York with very few nickels to rub together, and never losing hope. Amazing resilience that fueled and energized him. My mother would boast about how well they did through the Depression. He worked 3 jobs or something. They farmed and they gardened and he sold insurance and he delivered mail, and whatever it was, they got through. His hopefulness gave him a resilience, a determination. It is a superpower. I mentioned Brian Stevenson and his Equal Justice Initiative. I'm inspired by the hopefulness and the resilience and the determination of people like him doing that kind of work for justice in our world. And I was inspired to learn in that interview that he was inspired by the hopefulness of his great-grandfather, who, pardon the punctuation by canines here, by his great-grandfather who was born into enslavement in the 1850s in Virginia. And he, as a slave, he learned to read while enslaved. And, Brian Stevens said in his interview, he'd never thought much about that down through the years until, kind of well into his maturity and his work. But what a vision, what a kind of hope his great-grandfather had to teach himself how to read even while a slave, with no vision, no expectation that he would ever not be a slave, that emancipation would ever come. But he taught himself that. He had that kind of hope and that kind of vision. And then he enjoyed it so much he shared it with others. And after the emancipation, Brian Stevenson said his great-grandfather would gather people in his home every evening, and he would read aloud the newspaper to them. And give everyone a feeling of greater calm and of being better informed about their world and a close community. And Brian Stevenson described it as a kind of love in action, tremendous hopefulness that enabled him to read and enabled him to make the way for a future where his great-grandson would be a well-educated lawyer founding a justice initiative. It's amazing what hope can do. It is indeed a superpower. So connect with nature. Remember our personal human heroes of hopefulness, if you will. Anyone that inspires your sense of hope, and with their hopefulness and their vigilance. And the third one I'm calling connect with your heart. Connect with your heart. I've been reading a book. It's a Greg Braden book. I know many of you have read some Greg Braden. It's called Resilience from the Heart. Resilience from the heart. That's kind of a way of describing hope, isn't it? It gives us a resilience. And he draws in there a little bit on some of the science related to heart math and the Institute of Heart Math, and kind of the discoveries being made about how the heart and the brain really interact. That in the heart there's really kind of a little brain that sends signals to the brain about how it's feeling and what it knows, and then it triggers in the brain hormonal reactions, maybe fight or flight, or maybe feel-good hormones, or whatever it might be. They work together. And so there's a lot of, he talks about various things we can do to bring our hearts and brains into coherence. And that enables us to feel a greater hopefulness in us, a greater sense of safety and peace and ability to move forward, a greater resilience from the heart. So this is one that I've kind of learned from teachers, and I think it's a wonderful technique. This comes from the Institute for Heart Math, a quick coherence technique that Greg Braden described, which I suspect, like me, many of you have already done instinctively. If you're facing a challenge, if you're preparing for a task that's challenging in some way, or if you're just stressed about something or feeling a sorrow, you help yourself by breathing, slowing down your breathing, and breathing as if you're breathing in and out through your heart. Bring your breathing kind of down into your body a little bit and breathe in and out slowly through your heart. And this kind of sends, from the heart, your heart begins to settle and it begins to send signals to your brain that it's safe. You can draw your attention inward, you can relax, you're in a safe state. And then the second step, it's just a two-step thing. Breathe slowly in and out as if through your heart, sending those signals of safety. And then activate a positive thought. A positive thought of any kind, remembering a loved one. I might think about Buddy and Bella's beautiful little faces here beside me. Anything that gives you a good feeling, a face of a grandchild or a loved one or a grandparent, or a glimpse of a favorite tree or a coastline or whatever gives you a good feeling, and you let that kind of really sink into you as you're still breathing in and out. And the more, as you sustain that, Braden says the idea is that you create a conversation between your heart and your brain, and you create this coherence that makes everything go better. Everything goes better when your heart and your brain are connected and we are one. That's a powerful way of rekindling hope, too. Our teachers are all around us. Nature is here to heal us if we will turn to it and observe and let it sink into us. Our own breath can help us renew our hopefulness and our peace if we allow ourselves to do it, to sink into that. So let's do it right now for a moment. Just close our eyes and breathe slowly right through our hearts. And know that hope in us is rekindling. Whatever the challenges we are facing, whatever our worries or fears, we have the power of hope in us. A sure and steadfast anchor in our souls that will never fail us and can lead us through any challenge and rise us up each morning with new strength and energy and hope for the day ahead. Thank you, God, for your unfailing power and presence with us that keeps us ever hopeful. Amen. All right. Well, a few announcements, and then Joe and I will have another song, one of my favorites that we're going to do. But a few things I wanted to mention before going into that. First of all, we're going to do, the church is doing kind of a special holiday donation. We've been giving on a monthly basis to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank recently, and they're having a kind of a special donation drive. Alice, you brought this to our attention, Alice Noonan. I think this, on the 16th, which I believe is Wednesday, that the donations will be matched. So we're going to make a special holiday donation from the church to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank on that day so that they can get more mileage out of it. So thank you so much for your tithes coming in that enables us to do this kind of tithing monthly and to participate in this holiday drive as well. Also on Wednesday the 16th, the men's group is going to be convening for that dinner gathering at 7 p.m. By Zoom, of course. Michael Taggart is the wonderful coordinator for that group. I think most of you probably already have his contact info, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the comments section as well. Something else coming up this week that I know some of you might be interested in, there's a wonderful city choir called the Harmony Project. Joe and I used to be in it. Tracy, I know others in our listening group here, community, have participated in as well. They're having their regular winter concert this Thursday, the 17th at 7:30 p.m. The Concert for Us virtual edition. And I think to watch it, all you have to do is go to the website harmonyproject.com and click on a link there, and it'll take you to the concert at 7:30. Again, that's this coming Thursday. We're going to be having a Christmas Eve candlelighting service as usual. Again virtually. Joe and I here from our home with the fireplace and some candles to light, and I hope you'll have a candle handy to light with us as you join us virtually for that. That'll be on Christmas Eve at 7 p.m. And I think that's it, except that Ralph Leesburg, I think, is going to send us a couple of songs for next Sunday. So it'll be fun to have our friend Ralph Leesburg doing a couple Christmas songs next week. Many thanks to all of you for tuning in, for joining us. This is how we stay connected as a community. Many thanks to Joe for his technical expertise back here. I should take a picture of him with his mixer and his board and his laptop and his tripod and his phone. And it's very techie on that side of the room. All his toys, he says. And we are grateful for his toys and his expertise with using them. Thanks to all of you for tuning in and for your continued prayers for all of us. That's a superpower too, our prayers for one another. So let's keep those going. So I'm going to invite Joe to come over. We'll do one more song. And then we'll do the prayer for protection to close out. This has become a favorite of mine. It's called This Joy. Shirley Caesar, I think, was a writer of it. It's kind of a bit of a gospel, kind of rhythm to it. And it just seems like a really good one for the day about, these things come from inside us, and we can cultivate them on the inside. We don't have to wait for the world to give us joy or hope or peace. So sing along wherever you are. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This hope that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, this hope that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This hope that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give
give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Let's do this joy again. This joy that I have,
the world didn't give it to me.
no, this joy that I have,
the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
once more.
The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
All right, amen to that.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah and
Amen.
amen. Let's just join together in the prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We will stay connected during the week in our prayers and holding the highest and the best for one another and for our world. So have a wonderful week. And goodbye for now.